Why So Cold contains content that is graphic in nature. Listener discretion is advised. Why So Cold relies largely on police or news documents, eyewitness accounts, press conferences, and interviews. Every episode of Why So Cold is produced with respect to the victims, families, and communities involved.
From Watts Creative Studios, this is Why So Cold. Skeletal remains of a young woman were discovered off Mountain Road in Haymarket, Prince William County, Virginia, on February 12, 1982. Due to the advanced level of decomposition for over 30 years, investigators were unable to tell who this person was or where she came from. Meanwhile, the family members of Cynthia Gastelle hoped that their missing loved one would return home one day, unaware that she had already been found decades earlier.
Well, 18-year-old Cindy Gastelle's cold case has haunted her family for years. She got on a metro bus in Tacoma Park, Maryland, and just disappeared.
In 1980, Cynthia Gastelle was an 18-year-old Montgomery Blair High School graduate with a cosmetology certificate living in Tacoma Park, Maryland. She was described by her brother as a beautiful and vibrant girl who loved to dance. In addition, Cynthia was said to be outgoing and gregarious, but maybe just a little bit too trusting. Despite her education, Cynthia was not yet sure what she wanted to do with her life. But the young woman had decided she did not want to work in a beauty salon after all. For that reason, Cynthia had been looking for different jobs. And on April 3rd, 1980, she informed her family that she had 2 interviews scheduled at a couple of delis near Silver Spring. That morning, approximately 10:30 a.m., Cynthia left the home that she shared with her father and stepmother to catch a bus to Silver Spring, as she did not drive. Later in the afternoon, the Gastelles received a call from one of the delis saying that Cynthia had gotten the job, so she must have made it to at least one of the interviews. But weirdly, Cynthia had not yet returned home, and her parents were not aware that she had any other plans for that day. But even though the hours kept passing, and there were still no signs of the 18-year-old, Cynthia's family was not too worried at first. According to Peter, his sister had attempted to run away twice before and was nearly successful in changing her identity one time. So the Gastelles thought the same thing was happening again and waited several days before they finally reported Cynthia missing to the Tacoma Park Police Department. But as she was already 18 years old and had a history of running away, you can guess how much the police used resources to investigate what had happened to Cynthia. Not that much. After all, individuals over 18 have the right to go missing and cut off all contact with friends and loved ones if they wish. Of course, the police will still attempt to locate the person, but if they're not considered endangered, there's no urgency to do so. Any individual reported missing who cannot be contacted or located by police will be entered into the National Crime Information Center database and flagged as a missing person. And once entered, police do not stop investigating the disappearance. But of course, sometimes there are no leads to follow, and the case eventually goes cold. That is exactly what happened when Cynthia Gastelle went missing. Apparently, there were no clues, no witnesses, nothing that could have pointed the police in the right direction. It was like the earth had swallowed her. As time passed and Cynthia never came back, her family hoped that she had formed a new life somewhere. Her other brother, Greg, recalled how angry he was to her sister for never calling. Little did he know his sister had never purposefully abandoned her family.
In 1980, after leaving her Tacoma Park home for job interviews, she disappeared forever. Her brother says the uncertainty was agonizing for his mother.
The one thing that she said she regretted on her deathbed was not knowing what happened to her baby girl.
The family dreamed that maybe she'd run away and was happy somewhere. But then in 2012, more than 30 years after her disappearance, came the terrible news that she had been found.
2 years after Cynthia's mysterious disappearance, skeletal remains were found by a hiker in a wooded remote area of Prince William County, Virginia, on Bull Run Mountain Road. The skeleton was so tiny, 5'1" and about 90 pounds, that at first, the police thought it belonged to a child. However, a closer inspection revealed that the remains were that of a young woman, and markings on the bones indicated she might have been stabbed to death. Otherwise, there was not much to work with, and the police were unsuccessful in identifying the victim. A sweater and corduroy pants were found with the remains that could have been possibly recognized by friends or family members of the Jane Doe. But nobody knew if this woman was a Virginia resident or from somewhere else. Getting the information of the Bull Run Mountain Jane Doe in front of the right people was a difficult task. In the end, nobody contacted Prince William County Police about the discovery, and the identity of the young woman remained a mystery. In 2001, DNA from the skeleton was entered into a national database, but at the time, the results came back negative for any match. It would take another decade before this Jane Doe finally got her name back. On May 10th, 2012, 30 years after the remains had been discovered in Virginia, the unknown woman was identified as Cynthia Gastelle. Her family member's DNA had been collected the previous year as part of an investigation into another unrelated missing person case. And now, thanks to more advanced technology, they were able to match the sample with the mitochondrial DNA collected from Cynthia's remains. But while her family now knew where she had been all these years, the discovery did not bring closure to them, but opened a new wound. Both of Cynthia's parents had already died without ever knowing what happened to their youngest daughter, but her siblings had not given up the hope that she would someday come back to them. Peter said they'd been kind of happy living in the dream world, thinking Cynthia was alive and well. But now they had to face the brutal reality. Their little sister had been dead all these years, most likely a victim of a homicide. And there is a far dimmer hope that the perpetrator will ever get caught.
Your worst nightmare about what could possibly have happened to her happened.
What I would really hope is if this person still walks the earth, that they could be isolated and rendered harmless so they can't do this to someone else.
There was little evidence of what had happened to Cynthia after her disappearance, and there was not much more now that she had been found. However, we do know that someone had most likely brought Cynthia to Prince William County from Maryland, and she did not have any connections to the area. Her remains were discovered about a mile off Route 15 in Haymarket, at Enfield Chase Court and Mountain Road, on what was then private, secluded, wooded property. But it is unclear if Cynthia was killed in that area or her body was just dumped there. It seems that the young woman did not have any reason for being in Virginia, over an hour drive away from her home, especially on a day when she had scheduled meetings in Maryland. Due to the lack of evidence, the investigators had never named a suspect in the case. But they have said that Cynthia's former on-again, off-again boyfriend is considered a person of interest. Curiously, that boyfriend, a man called Mike, or Michael, who was a part-time student in his late teens or early 20s back in 1980, has never been found. It is true that the police have never known his full name, but they still have a photo of him, which he has long, curly hair, lamb-chop sideburns, a goatee, and mustache. For that reason, it is weird that nobody has come forward saying they knew the person in the said photograph during those years. Police have emphasized that Michael is not a suspect in the case, but they still want to speak with him or anyone who may have known him at the time of Cynthia's disappearance. They believe that Michael might have been one of the last persons seeing her alive. Perhaps, for that exact reason, he has never agreed to speak with the police. Or, maybe, Michael was killed by the same person who killed Cynthia, but his remains have never been found. At this point, everything is just speculation, as there is just not any lead to follow, and the police are waiting for someone with any information to contact them and hopefully help to crack this decades-old case wide open. One of the wildest theories that have emerged during the years is that Cynthia's case was linked to the Lyon sisters' disappearance in 1975. On April 7th, 10-year-old Catherine Mary and 12-year-old Sheila Mary were taken from a mall in Wheaton, Maryland. According to a witness, the girls were later seen in the back of a car, tied and gagged in Manassas, Virginia, just 20 minutes from where Cynthia's remains were found. A man named Lloyd Lee Welch eventually admitted he took part in the abduction and deaths of the sisters. Apparently, he also used the name Michael and looked very similar to Cynthia's ex-boyfriend. But other than that, there is no real evidence suggesting that the two cases were linked in any way. The truth is, the only significant break in Cynthia Gastelle's case happened back in 2012, when her remains were fortunately identified and her family was able to bring her home. Other than that, there are no suspects, no idea of a possible motive, no witnesses, no signs of her ex-boyfriend, and no certainty the case will ever be solved.
"35 years later, a broken family continues to grieve as police continue to search for the killer among us."
There's awfully good people on the good side, and they don't give up.
Now, Gastelle's skeletal remains were found in the 1100 block of Mountain Road in Haymarket, Virginia. If you have information in this case, you're asked to call Prince William County Police.
While Cynthia's family did not get the ending they had hoped for, they still got some closure, knowing Cynthia is no longer missing. They just wished that the answer would have found them sooner, and that no other families would have to experience similar pain. As Peter, Cynthia's brother, said, "Our grief is seconded by finding out how many thousands of missing persons there are in our region. No other family should go through what our family has had to go through. Please be kind to each other and look out for each other. That's what Cindy would want." If you have any information on this cold case, please contact the Prince William County Police Department tip line at 703-792-7000 or submit a web tip to pwcgov.org/police tip. This has been an episode of Why So Cold. For the source material used in this episode, visit whysocold.com.